everyone, and welcome to the EFMD Global Fairs. My name is Amber Wigmore-Alvarez, Chief Talent Officer at Hired. And I want to bring back live my colleague Jean-Alexis Spitz, also known as Jazz, who is the manager of the EFMD Global Fair series, for a few words. Jazz, welcome. Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Amber. It's a great honor and a pleasure to formally open, on behalf of EFMD, this October edition of the EFMD Global Fairs powered by Hired. Even though anyone who has been on the platform since yesterday and the preparation day already knows that it's full of activity, that we had a tremendous civic clinic this morning, that there are packed webinars scheduled all day long, that people are interacting like crazy on the platform, and it's great to see that much interaction. I would say that this is possibly the addition of the maturity of our global fairs, as the world is coming more and more back to a normal way of interacting, and as we have been gaining experience in organizing this kind of events during and because of the pandemic. And here I want to stress that this is not a simple partnership between Hired and EFMD. It's really a co-created event between those two partners, the schools in our membership, the companies that are on board, and the talent. And also now that we have this element of hybrid format that we are struggling with at the moment, but that we have a presence live at a campus in Barcelona, hosted by EAE Business School, that here I want to specifically mention and thank for this support. And I also have to say that this co-creation doesn't end at the end of this 3-day event. It's an ongoing and improvement process, and that's why we will be particularly attentive to the feedback that you will provide us after the event, and we will be trying always our best to improve the event. I don't want to take too much of your time, and I know that we have a great keynote speaker, Frédéric Clément from AXA Investment Managers. So let me end by saying my best wishes to the talent that are at networking already on the platform, by sending my best wishes to the 100 of corporate representatives in their hunt for the best talent, and also to reiterate to the career services of the almost 110 schools in our membership that we are happy and proud to help them, helping their talent with this event. Thank you so much, Amber, and all the best for this presentation with Frédéric.
Thank you so much, Jazz, for those words and for everything you've been doing to make these fairs a reality. Your efforts have not gone unnoticed, and we're thrilled to connect with the talent from more than 106 schools here with hundreds of recruiters throughout these 3 days. So thank you once again for being with us. Great pleasure. And now we have our keynote speaker from our main sponsor, AXA Investment Managers. We have Frédéric Clément, who is the Global Head of Human Resources at AXA IM since September 2021. Great to see you, Frédéric. And just a brief introduction to Frédéric's background. He led the Integration Management Office at AXA XL, which includes the overall integration planning and decision process related to synergies, communications, and cross-functional interdependencies between 2018 and 2021. And prior to this, he held different global HR roles, such as AXA Global Head of Compensation and Benefits and International Mobility, which I know will be of great interest to our audience today, connecting from schools in more than 92 countries around the globe. He was in that role from 2013 to 2018, also Director of HR, Communication, and Corporate Affairs of AXA Bank Europe from 2011 to 2013, after having been Global Head of Reward of AXA from 2007 to 2011. Before joining AXA Group, Frédéric worked in consulting for Towers Watson and Accenture. A very warm welcome to Frédéric Clément. Frédéric, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amber, for this short introduction, and thank you, Jean-Alexis, for your keynotes as well.
Excellent. Now, I know we're going to start out with a few slides just about AXA to introduce them to the AXA Investment Managers and who you are and I know they're going to have lots of opportunities to connect one-on-one with the recruiters, and we're going to be having one live CV clinic today from 4 to 5 with one of your colleagues, tomorrow morning from 9 to 10 a.m.
Okay, so first of all, I realized that in the short bio that you have shared with the audience, I realized that my job titles are usually very complex. And it's on our end because we have been the one sharing with you this bio. But to make it very simple, indeed, I'm currently the global HR for AXA Investment Managers. And what is AXA Investment Managers? It's basically an asset managers that works in a context of the broader insurance company named AXA. So to start very simple, AXA is a leading insurance company around the world with around 170,000 employees across the globe. And usually, which is a company that is having a 100 billion top line revenue, around 100 billion last year and the previous year, with earnings of around 7 billion. So it's a fairly big company. But the company that I'm representing today is one company that is a part of this activity of the broader AXA Insurance, that is AXA Investment Managers. So what is AXA Investment Managers? It's the asset manager of AXA, meaning that you have several forms of asset managers company. You have usually asset managers that are working for an insurance company such as AXA. Allianz, for instance, our competitors, also has an asset managers. You also have asset managers operating in a context of the banks, and you also have asset managers that are standalone. And to make it also very simple, what is an asset manager? But the name speaks for itself. We manage assets, which are usually financial assets that are collected, for instance, through pension funds, through banks, through other institutional clients, all forms of assets that we handle, we shape, we structure, and that we invest to the financing of the economy. What we do, it's basically contributing to the financing of the economy. And the difference that we have, and the main reason why I'm here together with you, is to express and explain this concept of asset management and how the careers that we can offer within AXA Investment Managers in particular can be particularly interesting and full of purpose. And I'm pretty sure, Amber, we will have opportunities to further discuss this.
Perfect. And our tech team is still working behind the scenes frantically to get the slides to work. But in the meantime, let's continue the conversation. And if they get those, and we have a great video as well, then we'll be sure to share. But as you've had such an incredible journey yourself, and just as we have the audience here today, considering the types of opportunities they want to engage in, can you share a bit about your own professional journey and how did you give thought to the opportunities you wanted to engage in? Did you have a mentor that was guiding you through the process? What is it that led you from one step to the next?
Look, when I was ending up my studies, I was fairly determined to start with the consulting industry. I thought that starting in the consulting world would help me to better structure my professional skills. And I know that I'm not very much pledging for my company right now, but honestly, I found with a step back that I did the right choice. That it helps me to acquire some form of efficiency that is now very much needed to progress in one's career. Then, after a certain while, 7 years, I decided that at certain point in time, if you don't want to be kind of stuck within the consulting career path, within the consulting companies that are usually offer this kind of jobs, I had to move on to a more traditional work job and I shifted to Accenture in between consulting and in between, let's say, that what we usually call support functions, arranging some outsourcing activities, for instance, setting a center of excellence in Argentina, which I must say at a point in time was very interesting and fun at the same time. I'm sure we'll have opportunity to talk about the fun part of what we can offer and what you should have in mind by taking a job in whatever company you're in, because that with a step back, I think that's the very most important. And then after 2 years, I decided, oh no, I did not decide. I had the opportunity to join AXA. And I'm like many AXA employees right now, because we have fairly long-lasting careers within AXA. I was like AXA, the financial industry, or not even the financial industry, the AXA insurance, like product and casualty products, the one that are insuring cars and households, that's boring. However, I went working for the headquarters in Paris, and I realized the quality of the people surrounding me and the opportunity and the means to deliver what was expected from me and from my team. And since then, it's already 15 years. I'm still with AXA and had the plenty of opportunity to do many, many things. Because usually what I like is to have a kind of a big figures that people have in mind to understand where they are in a company. When you are a young graduate, for instance, I'm always asking, oh, you've been doing an internship into one particular company. What was the turnover of that company? What is the underlying earnings or the earnings? Because underlying earnings is a bit fancy financial terminology that earnings is enough. And very often, even from the top-notch schools and universities, they're like, and they're mixing kind of the overall big company and the subsidiaries, for instance, that have been hiring them. So that's why I wanted to make quite clear that AXA as a group is 100 billion top line, so revenues, turnover, call it whatever you like, and around 7 billion earnings, okay? So as a market capitalization as well, AXA is a fairly large market capitalization. They think it's the top 50 largest company in the world with the 65 billion euros, even with the financial market volatility, you never know any longer, which in relative terms is big if you look backwards. But if you look at the big, for instance, Apple, etc., where it's more than 1,000 billion, it's small. Having said that, within this industry, it ranks AXA as one of the top 50 largest companies in the world with 170,000 employees around this. And again, repeating a little bit what I've already explained, in an insurance company, we need asset managers, such as sometimes the bank and the standalone asset managers. And when you are an insurance company, to put it very bluntly and simple, you collect, for instance, premiums. Yourself, maybe your parents, your relatives are paying some premiums that we collect and that we pay back in case something bad happens. It's the same for our households, but it's the same for a nuclear plant, for instance, if we are to insure a nuclear plant. It's the same for a factory. And if something bad happens, then we pay back. But in between, the money is within our accounts and we need to manage them, which leads to around 120 plus billion, if you can go back to the first slide, 123 billion asset under management. And this is where the story begins. Because in between this, you have to structure the assets, the products, everything that will underline this, by asset class, the assets that have been granted to us so we can manage. For instance, we have real assets that you see 15%, that is basically to invest into buildings, to invest into hospitals, for instance. We have also structured finance, where basically we take a commitment on the corporate debts of some companies, and then if they pay back, then that's good for us. If they don't, then we have to cover. We also have, which is the largest piece, the fixed incomes. You all have heard about the interest rates on the government bonds, for instance. We have to buy them, we have to sell them, for instance. And we have what it's very largely known equities for 10%, which is the shares of the company that are listed. So who are our clients? The good news for AXA Investment Managers is that we have 51% that comes from the balance sheet, from the money that is collected by AXA as an insurance, and the others are the clients, such as institutionals, pension funds, etc. So we have a real role to play in the economy, in financing some projects, some infrastructures, but also in managing the assets. For instance, if you have parents or grandparents that are retired, to manage the amount of money that then can be paid as annuity to them for their day-to-day living. So that's what we do. And AXA Investment Managers is more than 2,500, but because we grow, we are going to reach the 3,000 bar early 2023. And it's roughly a company that is doing 1.5 billion of revenues for, let's say, 400 million of earnings. That's what we do. And I am very mindful that it's quite conceptual, but has a strong role to play within AXA and within the economy.
Very impressive figures. Thank you for sharing. And also ambitious hiring plans, which I know the talent is excited to hear about. Now, we do have a video. We can try to show the video here in terms of what do you have to offer? And then we can engage with you with more questions. And we already have some questions coming in from the audience that I would like to field to you too. So let's go ahead and try to play the video.
Challenge.
A new challenge.
Challenges make you grow.
The team is empowered to bring innovative ideas, innovative solutions to the biggest challenges facing society today.
If there is a project you strongly believe in, the company will follow you.
Many of my bosses said, dare to speak up your mind, dare to speak in front of people.
Being part of a company that places real value on continuous learning is a real benefit to employees.
In 14 years, I have held 4 different positions.
And get the proper recognition for the work that we've done.
Embracing flexible working has a significant impact on employees' opportunity to develop within the business. And this enabled me to continue to focus on my career whilst not sacrificing on my family life.
It also allows me to structure my day in such a way that I can, for example, walk with my dog, or I can do an hour of sports.
I have daily interaction with colleagues from different nationalities and cultures, and this made me grow as a person.
The immediate feeling I had when I first joined the company was about its openness.
Having people from different backgrounds,
Different nationalities.
people from different countries,
Different locations.
help when we analyze companies that we invest in.
So it's always mind-opening to engage in conversations and to hear those new perspectives.
We were responsible investors already 20 years ago.
We want to lead by example.
We do things because we think they make sense for investors.
And we're looking at making material changes to the largest issues facing society today, be it the climate crisis or the recent global health crisis that we're all living through.
It certainly makes me proud to work for a company that is making a difference.
Excellent, Frédéric. Now, there's a couple of key themes that I wanted to ask you about from that video. First of all, thriving within a diverse community. I wanted to ask specifically, what is AXA IM doing to expand your diversity, equity, and inclusion goals? And one of the things I would like to touch on as well, if it's not included in your response, is the whole blind selection process. And if you're in your CVs or if you're doing behavioral assessments, that would be more along the lines of blinding out certain areas of the CV in initial stages of an applicant tracking system to broaden your pool of applicants beyond the obvious places. Tell me more.
Yeah, so we're not per se doing the blinding of some elements of the CVs. We've been thinking about it, but instead of blinding, we want to reach this more diverse form of employees that we want to attract. I mean, let me put that way. The asset management industry and the financial industry as a whole is getting less attractive. And I want to be blunt and very open with our audience. And that is something that we need to work on. There is a workforce, so I'm taking the risk of being particularly transparent. There is an aging workforce that is increasing year over year, who's convinced, and especially those X generation and the first millennial generation, the 35 plus, that are very convinced that they are making the right choice in evolving into such an industry with such an impact, such interesting projects, and some means to deliver things. Having said that, when you talk to the younger generation, either they don't know, either they think it's not for them, or they just consider, and that's also why we have so many males CV receiving, that it's not very welcoming for a career when you are a woman, when you are a young woman, for instance. And now we are convinced from the opposite. Having said that, we have to communicate and explaining why we think and we are convinced that it's open for everyone and all forms of diversities, whether gender, obviously, but that's not the only one, the LGBT community, of course, the ethnicity, and I know this is very restricted in France, but AXA Investment Managers is operating in more than 20 countries. And for instance, today I'm sitting in the UK. That is even something that we start to measure. So every form, and including diverse form of ethnicity, meaning in minority, whether it's Black, Asian communities, whatever, in our company. And disability is also one that we want to work on. And the new notions that, in my view, also covers and embeds some others is the diversity in terms of social backgrounds. That is something that we are measuring more and more. So the thing is that we need to find ways to bring our world closer to the world, not only to young women, not only to the younger generation, but all those forms of diversity.
Excellent. It sounds very positive, Frédéric. And now we have a number of questions from the audience. I'm going to start taking their questions. A question from Alex. What do you think are the 3 traits or skills that strengths a student person aspiring to become an asset manager needs to have?
You're not going to come and become an asset manager per se. You're going to join a company that is going to offer you career opportunities, and you're going to learn a job. Of course, you've been highly educated. If I take the EFMD Global Network, that's fairly obvious. And we're looking for profiles. The kind of profiles that want to have an impact in a collective team. That is for something that is very important, that will bring and carry our values. I mean, many companies are saying that integrity is one of their values. But when you are managing the millions, if not the billion of funds of the pensionees in wherever country, integrity has to be on top. And for instance, you're also managing a lot of money that is being collected by our shareholder, the AXA, which has been collected by insurance premiums. That means that in the context of the one AXA, you have to contribute to the success of the entire company. So it's more a profile that we are looking for, more than technical skills that you can trust me on this. We know our stuff and we know how to train everyone that is joining for one particular job.
Excellent. So it's more the profile. And we have a question now from Aliki about what do you study to get into this industry? What are the most common degrees in the industry? And I would just maybe add to that as well, if you could talk about any of the most common in-demand digital skills or professional certifications that they can add to their already excellent degrees that they're getting in our schools network.
So the first thing that you are thinking when joining an asset manager is to have a financial background. That's fairly obvious, but it can be in mathematics, it can be in science. We have, for instance, science engineering at the very top of our organization. On the other hand, we are not doing astrophysics. It's much more simple than one could say. And we also offer some different jobs within the organization. For instance, I represent the HR functions. We also have operations, digital. Yes, of course, as many industry, we have a digital skills shortage, but we also have some means to realize very interesting projects because, yes, actually, our industry is fairly captive. I mean, we don't have an issue in offering our products to the clients. So every kind of skills that you usually picture in a normal standard company is a company that would build cars or would produce beers, for instance, because I've seen that InBev is one of the participants of these fairs. This is less tangible. Having said that, we have the same kind of jobs, either the core jobs with the financial background or actuarial backgrounds, but also all the others. You can be in the purchasing, you can be in HR, you can be in operations, in IT. Every jobs are available.
Excellent. Now, one of the participants in our audience, Samara, is finding that I've realized that most of the available jobs nowadays are recruiting internal employees. What is the right first step in order to get a job, although not being employed at a certain company yet?
I'm not sure I get exactly the question.
So we're finding a lot of internal hiring is happening. So what happens when your target employer is actually doing more internal hiring? It could even potentially be interns and they're growing from within. What happens in that case? Maybe what percentage of your hires are actually internal employees versus from external sources?
So yes, we favor our internal employees because I cannot, for instance, say that we're offering a career and then once you are with us, we make a priority to the ones coming from external. So we still have, and we maintain this culture where we want to promote people internally, right? So it means that when we have competent internal candidates, then we promote that person to the next level or to a lateral move to a job where we think she or he can have an impact. Now, having said that, a good way to feed our talent pipeline is to offer internship. So we have roughly 200 interns per annum, a kind of continuous pipeline that we have, to whom we offer some jobs for some of them. Some of them want to get back to the studies and some of them find another job in another industry or to a competition. But usually when you step in, you're happy to stay within AXA Investment Managers.
Excellent. Now a question from Alexander. What will be the biggest change in the industry in the next 10 years?
If only I knew. Yesterday, we have roughly 100 high potential to whom we offer very sophisticated programs of development each and every year. And yesterday, when we visit one country, and that was UK, we sit with them, and I sat with them, 15 of them, with my CEO, and he said directly, look, I can't even tell you how the asset management industry as a whole is going to look like in 5 years from now. And we had that debate because they were less than 30 years of age, those high potential that we had, with the younger generation. And we were like, look, it's not because you join AXA Investment Managers that you're going to retire within AXA Investment Managers. That's fairly obvious. It's not because you're going to take a job that you should be out after 2 years because you consider that you have gone through everything that you could do. So we don't know how this is going to evolve. But what I see is that despite the difficult and uncertain context that we have with unfortunate war in Europe, with the financial market crisis that is coming up, we still have tensions on the labor market. So, which means that we still have to be attractive and have a clear deal in between the people that we want to attract, the people that we want to retain, and what we can offer. Because as an industry, it's a people industry. We need those people. Otherwise, the product line stops. There are no robots for what we do. So how is it going to become? The way you shape it.
Makes perfect sense. And now a question from Jeremy about what are the opportunities that come after asset manager and that career trajectory?
Alors, the beauty of the financial industry, unlike the consulting that I was referring to, for instance, you can start in a very prestigious consulting firm such as Bain, McKinsey, etc. You become highly specialized in the job of being a consultant. When you are in an asset management, you touch upon every financial dimensions that finance can offer. So you can take support finance functions in every industry of the world. You can continue as an asset manager. You can shift as a private banker. You can shift to M&A activities, for instance, if you are, for instance, working in a private equity. And I know that in those particular business schools and universities, there are some terms such as hedge funds, private equity. Those terms say, oh yeah, I want to do this. Yes, these are very interesting jobs, but they are not lockers ever forever. You can try, you can test, and you can decide to do something else. But when you are as an asset manager, you are compatible with all industries because all industries need some financing to grow and survive for some of them.
Excellent. Now, a question from Vex, and I love this question. When applying for an internship or a placement in wealth or asset management, sometimes the requirement is to have commercial awareness or show genuine interest in that area. How can this be done as a student?
I love that question too, Amber. And it's a good opportunity because we are working hard behind the scene to say, hey, look, hedge funds, it's not only cutting curves and making money when the market is going up and down. No. And by the way, hedge funds is fairly limited at AXA Investment Managers as an asset class. But the sense of purpose that what we do, look, we want and we finance the economy. For what matters. That's the motto that we are using. So for instance, when we finance student university flats, that is something that I think is very interesting to use technical skills to develop those particular asset class applicable to something that is making sense. When we finance the hospitals and the building of the hospitals, that is also something that is having sense. For instance, most of you must have heard of this terminology ESG. So E as environment. For instance, for the company we are investing in, if they're not making progress in terms of environmental support and protection, then we warn them 1 time, 2 times, 3 times at their general assembly, and then we are out. So trust me, when an asset manager that is material is moving back from the investing into that particular company, you have an impact. So you have to have, the ideal scenario is that you have a belief, you have something that you are passionate in, and it can be medical supplies, for instance, and you work on the asset class that is financing this. So not only you are making money, don't get me wrong, on some asset class, but you serve a purpose for something that you really feel in your guts. That's the ideal scenario that we want to promote.
Excellent. Now, we do have a number of questions already that are specific to your processes, which we can refer to your colleagues back in the virtual stand if you prefer, or unless you want to offer any information about graduate programs for international business and human resource management students. And then there's another one about how are your processes exactly in consulting? Do you need to prepare for cases? Do you want to take any of these about the specifics of your processes?
I'm not sure about HR management in particular. What we can do, and there is a slide with the name and a generic email address of my two colleagues who would be very, very happy to receive your applications in one particular opportunity. And I think it's one of the slides that when we have a chance we can project. She's Melanie and Christina. We have international opportunities. And again, yesterday with the High Potentials, we were like, if you want to work in Asia, for instance, if you want to work in the US, be my guest. I mean, this is not something that we have issues with. We have a global reach. Yes, the page just before. Yes, so Melanie and Christina would be really happy. Then you apply, and you have. After the screening, of course, by the hiring manager, you have standard application with interviews. Now, once you've joined, you can work in a very flexible manner from a remote location, if it's a global job, or also we have some local opportunities for the local market. So that is something that we don't have particular business case to solve before you get hired with them. But once you're here, we are offering international in every locations.
Excellent. Now, I wanted to ask another question here from the audience from Henderson, who said the AXA management brand has been built around values such as responsible investing. How do you ensure that your employees share the same values?
That's another very good question. I can say that, yes, indeed, we're doing some trainings. 100% of our employees, not only at AXA Investment Managers, but entire AXA, have been trained to the global warming and the climate impact. Let me take an example. When you are an insurer, and I'm moving away a little bit for a minute from asset management, you realize that with the global warming and all the catastrophes that are happening here and there, Florida hurricanes, for instance, the floods in Germany, and I could list dozens of examples. If you want a business to survive, if you want to continue serving the economy and protecting for what matters, it has to work. So you can't invest on one hand into the fracking for fossil energies on one hand, and on the other hand, protect the industry, factories and households from global warming. You have to be consistent. So being an asset manager linked and owned by an insurance industry made the ESG purpose even more evident for us. So of course we train our employees, but we are also very captive because we belong to a broader insurance company that have a genuine, even financial interest in the belief that we need to protect people, so not investing into things that are detrimental for our planet.
Excellent. Well, our audience has heard it. ESG keeps coming up time and time again. Very important to be abreast of environment, social, and governance topics. Now, you've touched a bit on this, but I just wanted to take this question just to reiterate. A question from a fresher, just building her career. What skills are necessary to become an asset manager other than being in finance?
Finance, if you are in a corporate finance role, for instance, you are going to handle the finance activities of one's regular company. So if you are joining AXA, for instance, in finance, you may have more sophisticated financial skills, because when you have a multi-billion balance sheet, you can imagine if that particular person has a financial background, that the complexity grows, as opposed to, for instance, a professional services company that doesn't own per se a balance sheet. So that is something that is intrinsic to our industry. Now, when it goes to asset managers, you already have you must already have the ingenuity and the creativity to build the product that will differentiate you from the rest of the competition. And you also have to sell those products. So the value chain is slightly different. You have to design the product and you have to sell those products to the various pension funds, the various banks, or even to the private banker that are ready to use the product that they are going eventually to sell to retail, high net worth individuals, or just to manage the pension funds of Mr. or Mrs. X around the world. So you have to be able to sell, not only to design complex products, but also to sell and see what's working or less working.
Very good. Now, a question from Anne-Sophie. Are you open to international students not fluent in French for jobs in France?
More than ever, yes. Anne-Sophie Robert sounds very French, but
It does, right?
yeah, it sounds. But
Perhaps asking
yes,
for a friend.
the world in which French CAC 40 is the 40 top listed market caps in France, are mostly Paris-centric, with French speaking into the office is over. At least for AXA, it's over. And by the way, our group CEO is German. And my CEO at AXA Investment Managers is Italian.
Very
so
good.
It's very rare that, for instance, in your team meeting, even when we are based in Paris, you speak French, to be honest. So sorry for the solely French speakers, but English is the business language. And when you are running in the transversal activities, such as AXA Investment Manager, it's inevitable.
Excellent. Now we can continue taking some questions from the audience. I wanted to highlight that we had a recent hired survey about remote opportunities, and we found that out of 1,100 students and graduates from our community, more than 80% are attracted to remote work opportunities. We saw that in your video. Tell us a little bit about how your corporate culture has been affected by the remote work culture, and even shed some light on the onboarding process and how that's going now with so many more companies that are more remote first.
Yes. The approach that we've been taking is flexibility and trust. Especially when we were comparing to some other companies that were like, oh, it's much better that we go back to the office, and please be relatively strict and control who's checking in, who's not during one working week. We took a different approach, and I was pushing for this and say, look, when you join, you have up to 3 days, wherever you stand in the world, working from home or working from almost wherever you want. Well, if you are one particular country and you want to work from South Africa whilst your activity is in Spain, you can do it. But we have to make sure that, for instance, if you break your leg in South Africa, we have all the necessary covers that enables us to help you if you break your leg. Simple as that. But basically, you can work in a highly flexible manner. We ask that you check in 2 days in the office, but we don't control. So if you come to the office 2, 3, or even 5 days, I crossed a young professional in the UK said, I prefer to come 5 days a week. Is that an issue? I said, no, of course not. You do whatever you want, my friend. The only thing is that you have to feel at ease with this, and you have to get connected with your team. And that's where it comes to the second part of the question on onboarding. When you come as a younger professional and you have to learn, I do remember that I was learning by the day-to-day interaction that I had with my managers, for instance. And that is something that we need to protect. Not that we need to spend extra hours every day in the office, but you need to have physical presence to learn, to discuss around the coffee machine. But of course, the flexibility, even I have some other people and say, check in on the morning and then leave on the afternoon to keep on working and avoid, for instance, the traffic jams or the crowd into the subway. That is something that we offer. But we need to maintain a form of contact, and the role of the managers, the people managers, many are saying, oh yeah, I want to become a people manager. Yes, sure, but it's not to work from the countryside 5 days a week. You have to check in with the younger and the one that learned, younger or less young, by the way, the one that need to learn on the job what they have to do. And that's very important. This is in motion, but it works quite well.
Very wise words of advice there, Frédéric. What do you wish someone had told you at the start of your own career?
Like many would say that it's going to be okay. The world's changed a lot. The professional world has changed a lot, Amber, and I think it's better now. And I wish I had heard that I had to be even more patient, because probably I would have reached the same stage, but with greater wisdom and with more fun. That's why in my early introduction I said, don't minimize the fun. I mean, it's not going to happen the way you plan, basically. That's for sure. And enjoy what you're doing. If I have to share a little bit of my feeling, is that my regret would be that, oh yeah, I performed well and I'm proud of where I am now. And it's not over, far from it. But if I would have been to take a little bit more pleasure in what I was doing, instead of trying to climb the ladder, I would have been happier. So now I'm happier. I wish I could have enjoyed more from scratch.
Very nice. Very, very nice pieces of advice. What do you hope our audience has taken away from you today?
But to learn a little bit more about AXA and considering having, there is a gap in between what I see as interest of the day-to-day work, the means that we are offering to achieve goals and deliver concrete stuff, the sense of purpose in financing and protecting what matters, contributing to the financing of the economy and the environment, and the fact that usually those people like also to join more standard, I would say even sometimes boring kind of industry. We have a lot to offer, so you are more than welcome.
Thank you so much, Frédéric. It's been a great pleasure to have you as our keynote speaker on day one of the EFMD Global Fairs. A very special thank you to your organization, AXA Investment Managers, for being the main sponsor of the fairs. And we have something else to look forward to with one of your colleagues this afternoon. We have Nicola Holland, Senior Talent Acquisition Consultant covering AXA IM in the UK, who will be live with us in the CV Clinic from 4 to 5 p.m. CEST. Tomorrow morning, we will have yet another AXA Investment Managers CV Clinic hosted by Christina Chiortu. So we look forward to that as well. And in the meantime, I know that you are all very active, you and your team, in the virtual stand. So the talent does not need to wait for those CV clinics. Head on over and engage with the recruiters one-to-one. So thank you very much once again. Thank you, Jazz, for the warm welcome. And we are so excited to have all the talent with us today throughout these 3 days, thousands of talent connecting with hundreds of recruiters here at the fairs. It's a great pleasure to be broadcasting live from Barcelona. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amber. Ciao.